Good afternoon. We are here to talk about recreation, but I'd like to share some good news. We will soon be able to distribute $300 million in federal CARES Act funding to our local cities and counties. And we're very happy about getting that distribution going. We'll be announcing the specific allocations in the coming days, and the funds should be dispersed in a few weeks, pending approval from the legislative leadership. This is a good start, but we have to realize that the needs of these communities are much greater than will be satisfied by this original act of Congress, and we know that they will have severe budget shortfalls. I talk to mayors and executives fairly regularly about this, and they and the state are most hopeful that the Congress will continue this trend to keep us going. Contrary to what some senators have said, bankruptcy for any community should not be an option. And the reason is these cities and counties are really on the front lines of the pandemic. They're the ones who are carrying the burden of emergency services. They're going to be involved in our contact tracing effort so we can find people that may have been exposed to this virus, and they simply have to have the wherewithal to get this vital work done. Now, turning to recreation. Today I'm joined remotely by Commissioner of Public Lands Hilary Franz, by Kelly Siswind, Director of Department of Fish and Wildlife, Don Hoke, Director of the Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission, and by my Senior Policy Advisor for Outdoor Recreation and Economic Development, John Snyder. They're joining me today because today I am announcing a partial reopening of outdoor recreation beginning on May 5th. This will open up widespread outdoor recreation, assuming healthy and safety guidelines continue to be used by Washingtonians. Based on the data that we have now received, we are close to the point in the spread of this virus where we can enjoy the outdoors again. This is a data-driven decision. It is a decision that follows the data, because that's what we need to lead in these efforts. I do want to emphasize that this is a decision we make today, but if this virus were to spring back, we might have to roll back some of these measures again, which is the reason we have to remain disciplined in how we do enjoy the great outdoors. When I rolled out the Stay Home, Stay Healthy in March, I did so because we knew that reducing movement and reducing the physical interactions that would take place ultimately would reduce the spread of this virus and ultimately save lives. And it's why we made very difficult decisions to close state parks and public lands and golf facilities and delaying hunting and fishing seasons. Those are tough decisions, knowing how important outdoor recreation to us here in Washington State. But we do know that outdoor recreation is one of the best things people can do to promote health, both physical and mental, during this time of stress and isolation. So the restrictions being lifted today include day use of our state parks, day use of our state lands that are managed by the Department of Natural Resources, and day use of state fish and wildlife areas. This includes fishing, hunting, and the ability to play golf as well. Now, we do know that all of these activities do need to be done with appropriate social distancing, as well as protocols for safety and security of everyone enjoying the outdoors. And just as with other sectors where we are beginning to modify our restrictions, if we were to see a sharp uptake in people who are being affected, we'll have to modify these activities again. Aside from today's announcement, any additional relaxing of outdoor recreation restrictions will depend on the data and our compliance rates. But I do think it's important to say this. This is not a return to normal today. The virus is too rampant to allow that. This is only a beginning of a phase of relaxing our outdoor recreation. And if it's hurting our public efforts, we'd have to change course again. Data, not dates, determine how we act. It's like someone who has a plan to go hiking. They've got their boots already, they got their compass, you got your backpack. It's a plan, But you can't do that till the snow retreats from the hills, and that's up to Mother Nature. We have a plan for reopening our state, but it depends on how the data comes in regarding the progress of this virus. So today, public gatherings, events, team sports, and camping, or among other things, are not resuming at this time. So that means if you're on a park, on a blanket, with a bunch of friends who are not in your household, you really are violating the stay home, stay healthy order and the ability to protect you and your loved ones and your pals from getting sick. We know that when we're on our trails, good etiquette is to step off the trail and give people at least 6 feet. That matters, even in the woods. So it is important to say, too, that today's action does not restrict the ability of local governments to maintain restrictions on their own, in their own jurisdictions as they deem appropriate. And of course, this includes tribal lands as well. I'd like to emphasize that we're making this decision based on public health all the way around. Now, these are guidelines that we all need to follow in outdoor recreation going forward. And it includes a prohibition on anyone exhibiting any cold or flu-like symptoms from participating in these activities. People need to limit their partners in recreational activities to only those who live in the household unit. Having the symptoms is a dangerous sign enough not to engage and infect anyone else. We also need to recreate locally to the extent humanly possible. We should limit unnecessary travel and not make overnight trips to recreate. It's created too much stress on some local communities who are otherwise stressed and would be overtaxed by an influx of too many people. So bringing your own food and supplies when possible is going to also help reduce exposure and help these local communities. We know we need to avoid crowds, even outside. I've seen pictures of a couple hundred people at a trailhead at the top of a mountain. That's just too dangerous. We can use face coverings when social distancing is not possible. We've got to wash our hands outside as well as inside, and always got to pack it out clearly. We've been working with the Golf Alliance of Washington the last few weeks on guidance to provide appropriate social distancing and limiting when playing golf. We'll be playing in twosomes for a while, except for when a foursome is all one household. And we always obviously have to socially distance even on the course. So you can only play golf with one person from outside your own household, and we still need to socially distance. Now, it also means, and I hope people think about this, it also means we really can't be traveling in the automobile with our friends who are not in our household right now. And it's the same thing with being in a boat. That being confined in a vehicle is just too dangerous at the moment. When we play golf, we're not going to have sit-down or beverage service. Have to find another avenue. Now, this announcement follows another great example of groups and individuals working together to ensure that our activities can be safe, and that's what's happening in the face of this pandemic. As I've said before, this virus and the impact on all of us is extremely challenging. But this is not the time to give up on the strategies that we know are giving us results, saving lives in the state of Washington. And I'm confident that Washingtonians who love the outdoors as much as I do are going to do a good job maintaining social distance even when we're outside and just exercising common sense for our own good and our loved ones. I want to thank the millions of Washingtonians who are doing that across the state. And I now want to turn to Commissioner Hillary Franz and others. Hillary.
Thank you, Governor, for your leadership and for this opportunity. Obviously, people of Washington have made great sacrifices in the fight against COVID-19. One such sacrifice felt profoundly by those in Washington State, our residents, is the closure of our public lands, our state parks, our recreation areas. We know in times of crisis that our public lands and natural resource areas are a place that we go to for our physical, our mental, and our emotional well-being. So it was one of the hardest things to have to close those lands to the people of Washington. But thanks to the shared sacrifice of everyone and the heroic work of our we are able to take steps today to reopen our public lands. And I truly believe that reconnecting people with nature is the first step in a long journey to back to normalcy. However, we need to make sure that in reopening our public lands, we do not in any way get so lax that we have a return of this problem. And it means that we have to be vigilant in the fight against this virus. We all need to take steps to make sure we continue to do as much as we can to keep our families, our communities, our first responders healthy. And that means to recreate responsibly. Before you leave, make sure you prepare, that you have hand sanitizer, water, a mask, that you make sure when you arrive you avoid those crowds, and you definitely utilize social distancing rules. Unfortunately, the reason we had to take steps to close our public lands is because we saw an unprecedented number of people coming out and enjoying our natural areas. We want to keep them open. We want people to enjoy these areas, especially now, but that means we all have to take actions to make sure we're keeping ourselves safe and our families and our communities safe. Thank you again, Governor, for your leadership, to the Department of Health and all of our first responders, our doctors and our nurses and community members on the front line. We look forward to getting back to normal as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Hillary. We know these are difficult decisions for all of us. Kelly, our Director of Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Happy to be here with you today to help reopen our public opportunities. Beginning May 5th, specifically with DFW, we'll be opening our wildlife areas and boat launches, and we'll also be opening most of our seasonal fishing and hunting seasons, consistent with what is normally open at this time of the year. There are some restrictions. There's no camping allowed on our land, and we still are working with local officials and health professionals to reopen the coastal areas. So Marine Area 1 through 4 will not be open for fishing yet, nor will clams or shellfish. Working hard to get those opened up as soon as we can, but they will lag behind the May 5th opener for the rest. I really want to thank everybody for your patience that have stuck with us. We know that this is a sacrifice that caused these delays as we all fight to stop the spread of COVID. We particularly appreciate the dozens of recreational community groups and leaders that are working with us daily to develop the steps to get back out safely. For us specifically, safely means continuing that social distancing. We ask that you recreate with members of your household. We ask that you recreate locally. So for us, we did not define a local term. We're asking you to basically stick with day trips. Basically go out, be prepared, bring that sanitizer, hand sanitizer with you. Take everything with you need so you can leave your home, go out, recreate, come home, and not have to engage with anybody beyond your immediate group. If you arrive at your location and it's crowded, please find another place to go. We're asking folks to recreate responsibly. We know you can. We're in it together. To our hunters that can't meet those guidelines, so I'm thinking spring turkey and some of our spring bear hunters, if you can meet the guidelines, go. We wish you the best of luck. If you can't, contact us. We'll make sure to make it right for you. We're refunding license fees. We're reestablishing preference points for our drawing. We want people to recreate safely, and when you can't, work with us, and we'll make you whole again. I look forward to seeing you out there on the trail. Thank you for recreating safely.
Thanks, Kelly. Don, our Director of States Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for your leadership. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased that we have reached a point where Governor Inslee feels comfortable beginning to reopen our parks and public lands. The Governor and other public land agencies recognize and understand the importance of the outdoors on our health and well-being. This important step will provide the public the opportunity to reconnect with nature, reduce some of the stresses of being confined in our homes, and instill a little sense of normalcy back into our lives. As we prepare to reopen our parks, we've taken steps to ensure the safety of our staff and visitors. We've also been working with our local communities and tribes to address concerns they have reopening park day use areas. We want to avoid crowds flocking to the ocean beaches and popular parks and trailheads, putting these communities at risk. For this reason, we're not opening every park and are working with our partners to determine the best approach and timing for reopening them. We ask that the public be responsible when visiting our state follow social distancing practices, come prepared with personal hygiene products, avoid traveling too far, and most importantly, stay home if you're sick. I'm confident that we can enjoy the outdoors in a way that is safe and responsible, but that needs everyone to work together to accomplish that. The state park staff are looking forward to welcoming you all back to your best managed state park in the country. Thank you, Governor Inslee.
Thank you. And with that, happy to stand for questions.
First, we'll go to Rachel with AP. Governor, you said that today's announcement doesn't reflect the state's ready to fully reopen. Do you plan to extend the current stay-at-home order to the end of the month, as the Bay Area did today? And then secondly, going back to the federal stimulus comments regarding with regards to government, as you know, state revenues are projected to drop dramatically, and there are concerns about potential cuts to state programs. How do you think the state should address that potential shortfall if the federal government doesn't come through with enough money to bridge the gap?
Well, we are hopeful that the Congress will step up to the plate. We are hopeful that the Congress understands the centrality of states and cities and counties providing fundamental services. Look, these are schools, these are a state patrol, these are contact tracing and isolation programs to fight the virus. This is the absolute front lines. And so we are hopeful that Congress will give it another large infusion to the states so that we can continue these vital, absolutely essential services. And we are hopeful that Congress will roundly reject Senator McConnell's suggestion that the way to deal with this is to allow states go bankrupt. That is the most wrong-headed, ludicrous idea I've heard for a long, long time. So we are hopeful that the Congress will come through. We've had a diligent delegation for us in Washington working on this issue, and I hope that they are successful. Now, to some degree, almost perforce, no matter how successful Congress is, we are going to have real challenges in our state, in the billions of dollars. And we need to know, as with all of our data, how big that hole is going to be. We will have a beginning of a look at that towards the end of this month when we get some preliminary forecasts about the revenue that's coming in. But I don't think you'll see a plan for several weeks after that, because we will be involved talking to our citizens, talking to legislators about the best way to approach that. And that's when we'll be able to present a plan in that regard. Your first question was, I promptly forgot. Yes. We all have to realize that we are a long ways for the end of this virus, and we are going to have to maintain plenty of restrictions after May 4th. We have made some progress in the last few days, and we have opened up ongoing construction. We've been able to open up outdoor recreation today, and as time goes on, we intend to continue to turn that dial to open up our community. But that dial depends on data on when it can be opened up. And that data changes every single day. And we watch multiple metrics. We watch the percentage of positive tests that are COVID positive. We look at the daily hospitalizations for COVID-like illnesses. Of course, we look at our fatality rates. We look at the percentage of people who come in with COVID-like illnesses. And we look at the modeling that projects what the situation will be in the future. And what we have seen is that we've had some modest improvement in this regard, but the models still give us great pause and have not enough confidence to throw open the gates to return to all of our normal activities. Nor have we reached the threshold that the White House even suggested regarding reduction of infection rates. So we will have to maintain a significant part of our effort after May 4th. We have not made decisions on further dates after that. That'll be data driven, and we'll have more to say in the next few days.
Next question comes from David with the Seattle Times.
We lost you there, I think.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, what specific metrics did you see that told you what might be the next thing that could open if those metrics continue in the right direction?
Well, there are not quite dozens, but probably a dozen numbers that we look at on an hourly and daily basis. I'll just show you one of them that you might find of interest. I'll put a graph up, and this graph shows the cases of COVID-19 hospitalizations by date of first admission. And of course, it starts in February, spikes, we hope a spike. Some of the numbers have come down, and we're in this range here in April today in our hospitalizations for COVID-19 based on date of first admission. Now, this is just one metric that we look at, but if you look at this metric, it would suggest that we have made progress. These admissions went up fairly significantly, and the admissions have come down to some degree. So that's one data point amongst many, and I almost hesitate to show you this one because there are other data points that are not as sanguine. The percentage of positive tests, the numbers of infections per day, which have, in some manner of speaking, plateaued, that doesn't look as rosy as this chart does. There are many data points, but this is just one that is at least one cause for some glimmer of optimism. But I'll show you another graph to show why these decisions are difficult and why we need to make them based on sort of a rational, calm thought rather than ecstasy, thinking of we're out of the soup here. This is a projection by the Institute for Disease Modeling, and it shows our past experience and then some projections. Basically, it starts in February. It shows the dates, and this is for King County. So this is not a statewide chart. This is for King County. And you'll see the data points, and this line you'll see has gone up and to some degree has plateaued, as I've indicated. And the modelers have used their best algorithms to project what that looks like in the future. What they have projected is if we continue our social distancing, the model would be just a little bit downward on this green line. Just a little bit downward, but not much. Pretty much a plateau. This model is not as, obviously, is not optimism. It does not produce as much optimism as the one data point that I just showed you. There's something also very significant in this model, is that they have modeled what this would look like if we remove our social distancing requirements right now. And this is demonstrated by this gray line that starts to go up quite dramatically. And the thing that grabs my attention in this model is the rate of that increase. You'll see the rate of increase is demonstrated by the angle of attack, the angle of this gray line. You'll notice this is darn near as steep as when we began this effort, which would suggest that if we gave up today, we would be right back in a similar situation that we were earlier this month and in March when this thing was rampant. So these are just two of the data points we look at when we made this decision. We think we are now at a point, we've been looking at this very carefully for a couple of weeks now, where we do think some small changing in that dial is appropriate. But we are so far apart being able to turn this off like a light switch. That is just way too dangerous. We'll have more to say about some more of these metrics in our plan in the next few days as well.
Next question comes from Drew with King 5.
Governor, we've heard about these benchmarks. I know we talked about the reduction of rates and death rates and hospitalization. You also talked about sufficient testing and the contact tracing system in place. Are we at all close on those last two issues, the contact tracing and the sufficient testing to even talk about more openings?
Well, we're getting substantially closer. Those do not exist today, but we think we're making some good progress on that. As you know, we have been woefully short of test kits. The federal government has not provided us adequate test kits to actually test as many people as we want to test. We would like to test probably 4 times the number of people we're testing today as soon as possible. The good news is we have developed additional analytical capability to test those results. The bad news is we have not had enough swabs and viral transmission medium to be able to get the samples to the labs for analysis. Those have been severely restricted. Today on a call with the President and the Vice President and the Vice Admiral in charge of these matters, we were told that that supply will increase dramatically in the next couple of weeks. We hope that is the case, but as has been true in the past, we need to make sure that those things arrive. So we hope that that will succeed in getting us enough test kits to get the testing up to where we need it to be. Then we need the contact tracing capability to actually contact the people personally who these infected folks have had contact with. And then, and this is very important, and then make sure they are isolated and their families are isolated as well so that this can't spread like wildfire. We want to have 1,500 people engaged in that, a small army around the state of Washington. Our target date is by May 11th. We've made good progress on that. There has been substantial work done on the training, and we hope that training is going to start fairly soon for 700 members of the Washington State National Guard. We have folks for the today in the local health districts, in addition to 200 additional people for Department of Health, and our plan is to try to recruit another 200. So those numbers together with local health will sum 1,500, even without the volunteers. So that is the plan. We're making good progress on it. But we're going to move very quickly. This is a very rapid pace of trying to stand up an army, and I'm glad we've committed ourselves to it.